Hey guys, this is Patty B within the Holler. I got another firearm I'd like to share with y'all. This is the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0, chambered in .380. Yeah, the Bodyguard 2.0 is a polymer frame, striker fired micro .380 that feeds from either flush fit 10 or little extended 12 round magazines. Yeah, Smith & Wesson introduced this a few months ago, as a replacement for the original Bodyguard, with the biggest differences being this is now striker fired instead of hammer fired, and you now have stack and a half capacity. Instead of only like 6 rounds in the original, you can get 10 with the flush round fit. I'm a big pocket carry guy. Lately I've been carrying the LCP Max quite a bit, so it's going to be cool to compare and contrast these two pistols for sure. Just picked this up from my FFL, so I'm excited to take this thing out and shoot it and see what it does. Specs on this, got a 2 3/4 inch barrel, and it weighs 11.6 ounces on my scale. Features, we'll look at the polymer lower down here, feels pretty good, got a decent amount of traction, not great, but pretty good. Definitely a little more texture than the LCP Max. The controls on this, slide stop, slide release only on one side. You do have some decent texture on your magazine release. The trigger on this for a pocket pistol is actually really good. You've got like the dingus here, Glock style trigger, pulls to the wall, pretty clean break. The reset's fairly far out, but that's a pretty darn good trigger for such a small little pistol. You do have some little traction up here for memory pads. The slide on this looks really good. It's got some nice cuts both fore and aft. The sights are definitely unique. They're similar in style to the LCP Max. It does have a tritium vial and an orange, not a dot around it, I guess. But there's a lot of air in this rear sight, so we'll have to see how well we can shoot that. I feel like that's going to be pretty darn good for up close speed, but a little farther out with accuracy, I don't know. We'll have to find out. But this thing just seems pretty cool, and as a big pocket carry guy, I had to pick one up because I knew I was going to be interested. Yeah, if it turns out to be better than my LCP Max, then Smith & Wesson may be what rides in my pocket. The takedown on this, pretty darn simple. Lock your slide to the rear, rotate your lever down, slide go forward, pull the trigger, and comes right off. You got your guide rod and recoil spring and an itty bitty little barrel. Installation's just the reverse. Get that lined up there. And there you go. Yeah, so pretty darn cool. We'll take this thing out, probably shoot it side by side with this, and just see what we think. So, well, hey, let's go put a couple hundred rounds through this thing. We'll come back in, tell you what I think about it. We got some Monarch FMJs. We're going to take our shots with this and see where it's hitting for us. All right, didn't lock back. Yeah, shooting a little bit left. My initial thoughts is for a little bitty .380, this has hardly any recoil, and this thing shoots pretty soft. I'm pretty happy with that. All right, we moved back to about 15 yards or so. See how we can do with the little Bodyguard. All right, shooting pretty good. This little thing's so shootable. I did notice that the slide not locking back is just because that's where I put my thumb. It's not the pistol. My thumb just rides right on it. But man, this thing's shooting nice. All right, let's see if we can take a little pocket pistol and hit that 25-yard plate. Once again, my thumb. But man, you can't argue with that. That thing's easy to hit at 25 yards with. I wasn't sure about the sights, but I'm digging them pretty cool now. This is just a fun little pistol to shoot. All right, we're back inside from shooting the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0, and wow, this little thing is pretty cool. This thing shoots so soft. Put just over 200 rounds through it, 0 malfunctions. We did have one that it hit the primer didn't go off, put it back in, and then it fired again. It looked like a decent primer strike, so I'm assuming it's ammo related. But other than that, this thing ran like a champ. 0 complaints. As little as this pistol is, it's incredibly shootable and a whole lot of fun to shoot. As you can see, if you got fat hands like myself, then you might get a little, slide bite, but it's not a whole lot, and not really relevant unless you're shooting a whole bunch of rounds through it. But yeah, this thing is pretty awesome. Comparing it to its main competition, the LCP Max, which I've been carrying this quite a bit and I really like it. However, this thing is just a little bit better in my opinion. In your hand, this thing just feels a little bit better, a little more ergonomic grip. The trigger on this is lighter, but for a pocket carry, it almost borders on a little too light, but the trigger definitely makes it shootable. Trigger on this, a little bit heavier, but comes to a nice firm wall and a clean break. I almost prefer the trigger on this, but I'm going to call them even. The sights, these sights are really wide in the rear, but shooting it proved to be no problem. But I do think I prefer the sights on those slightly better, but the point's kind of moot because I shoot this one better. And where this shines is just in shooting it. To me, this is a much more shootable pistol than this is. Their sizes are virtually identical. The Smith & Wesson is a tad longer. If you even them up, you can see it is a tad longer. So, if you pocket carry, even something as little as that can be a concern depending on the size of your pockets. But the overall shootability on this, in my opinion, for me, this is just easier to shoot and shoot well. I've watched plenty of videos on this before I bought one and everyone seemed to love it. And yeah, now I know why, because this is, to me, just the most shootable little 380 pocket pistol there is. And this thing is probably going to replace my LCP Max, just because I really love it. For me, you got thicker hands. I really just find myself with only 2 fingers on the grip with a pinky under, but I'm okay with that. But if you have smaller fingers, you might be able to get 3 on the grip. And if you run the 12 round mag, even fat fingers can get all 3 on there. Since I'm a pocket carry guy, I'll probably stay with the 10 rounder. I'm completely fine shooting with pinky under. That works for me. So if you're looking for a little 380 pocket pistol and one that's shootable, this is definitely something I would, look into. The LCP Max, not a bad gun, but this just shoots better and has less felt recoil. And yeah, I think it's my new pocket carry gun. So there you go, guys. Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0. Y'all have a nice day.